is what actually plant forward or plant-based cooking actually means. So it's kind of a style of cooking that is emphasizing and celebrating plant-based foods. So vegetables, legumes, beans, even soy-based products, nuts, seeds, and a lot of plant-based oils. And it also has like a really big emphasis on herbs and spices to really bring out the natural flavors of the vegetables that you're working on. So at GCCM, I know that some of you may have taken classes with us, and I do want to reiterate that a lot of our cooking is focusing on including rather than excluding in our diet, because we want to increase more of that fruit and vegetable content in our meals so that we feel fuller and better for longer. So without further ado, I just hope that I defined that pretty well for you guys. If you have any questions, definitely holler at me and I can clarify a little bit. And so the first thing that I think we should do is put our quinoa on, since it kind of takes the longest, and then we'll move on to our mimosas. Cool? All right, so in this pot, I pulled out a cute little guy because I'm gonna only do like a couple of servings. So I've got a half of a cup of quinoa. I threw in my lucky bay leaf, so whoever gets to eat the bay leaf later is the lucky one, kind of like the baby in the king cake. That's like my pride and joy in my cooking. And a couple clove leaves just for some flavor. And I'm gonna add in 1 cup of water to half a cup of quinoa, because it's a 2-to-1 ratio. And then just give it a nice little swirl, making sure that everything is coated with the water. I'm gonna pop that guy on high heat on a low burner, like a little small one. And I'm gonna let it sit and do its thing. Oh wow, she's really sparking today. All right, cool. So we're gonna put that on high. Once it comes to a boil, we're gonna turn it down and leave the lid on it so it just like sits and does its thing. All right, cool. Let me get a blender. I'm just gonna grab the pitcher and then I can go blend over there so it's not super loud for you guys. So for carrot citrus mimosas, this is totally a customizable thing. I highly encourage you to get a little creative when you're making yours. Maybe you want to throw in a little bit of fresh ginger or powdered ginger. Maybe add in a little bit of other citrus to your liking, maybe blood orange or lime. But I provided this recipe so that it's kind of an easy base for you to kind of get going first on the concept and see if you like it, and then you can tweak it from there. So right here, I have prepared my ice and my juice. It's a half cup of ice and I believe 1.5 cup of OJ. Freshly squeezed is the best, but I'm not gonna lie, I definitely cheated and I use store-bought. I always have it on hand for some screwdrivers. All right, then I'm gonna add in 1 cup of water. And I'm gonna put that to the side. I've got these cute little carrots that have their big old long stems, and we're gonna use those later. It's a great way to cross-utilize everything that we're gonna be using, because, you know, we're going ahead and we're buying carrots, and if we're gonna pay maybe like 90 cents for the bunch, because I bought these for like about $1 or $2 at Whole Foods. It's really exciting to get the tops, because then you can use them in a chimichurri or in a pesto or in garnishes in your salad. All right, I'm gonna give these a quick little peel. And the way I'm gonna peel is against into the board. So that way I'm not coming towards myself. I don't wanna cut myself, so I'm just going against. Like that. I'm not gonna lie, I super like this peeler because you can kind of go back and forth with it when there's some bigger vegetables. All right. I'll do these quickly. All right. So I've got about 2 small carrots. That works. Just gonna do a rough chop, nothing like fancy, nothing crazy yet, you know. It's breakfast time, we're still a little groggy. All Just something that it will be easy for the blender to kind of do the work for us. All right, I'm gonna pop those in. All right, cool. And I don't want to add in the wine just yet. We want to top it off later with that, okay? All right, my quinoa is already at a boil, so I'm gonna reduce it down to a very low and slow simmer. It actually worked a lot faster than I was anticipating. All right, I think I can go ahead and do the lemon juice right now. Pop that guy. And a trick to not getting the seeds in there is you can always squeeze it out ahead of time, pull them out in a little bowl, but I juice right over my hand so that I catch those tiny little seeds that come out.
Clean hands are tools, chef's best
Yeah.
tool, right, Matt?
Yeah.
You don't need fancy tools. You can just use your.
No, I go out of my way to not buy a citrus juicer, and so it's so funny when people ask me for one, because I don't want another thing to take up another space in the cabinets that I have. I don't have enough space for all these gadgets. I'm like, I'm gonna work with what I got. All right, I'm gonna take this over to the blender. I might need to mute myself. We'll see how it goes.
It's all right. We don't mind a little blending action.
All right. Cool. That's a beautiful color. It's almost like a, I guess, like an orange dreamsicle. That's what it kind of looks like. All right, and I've got a fancy, nice little glass for it. Personally, I'm not one for pulp, but my girl is, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave the pulp in there. If you want to do maybe like a half and half, or you would like to remove the pulp, a very fine strainer will do the trick for you. Oh yeah, this is gonna be delicious.
I really love this recipe, Matt, because, you know, I don't think many people would think to add a vegetable to a breakfast cocktail, but
I know, and it was like super easy.
What a great idea. Now I can feel a little bit better.
Though,
oh yeah, tell us about that.
If you don't have a blender, you can definitely do like one of those pressed juices, and then it's even easier for you to grab in the morning if you already have like some juice on hand.
Oh yeah.
They do like those blends. All right, top it off. And deliver to your loved one.
Awesome.
Or sip while you're cooking. Sweet. That's gonna be awesome to sip on while we cook, guys.
Yeah, and you know, carrots are such a great source of vitamins and minerals that why not?
Oh wow. I actually impressed myself with that. That's pretty good. All right, cool. Now I'm going to show you guys something that I did in advance, and it seems probably intimidating and a little bit extra, but I'm going to take the fear out of it for everybody, okay? So what I did this morning was, yes, I grabbed the things that I know that we're going to cook with today, but normally what I would be doing is grabbing whatever I think needs to be cooked first, and like is kind of going out the door in the fridge, see what we have to work with first, pull it out, and then you decide from there what you're going to make, because it makes it so much easier than just being overwhelmed when you're looking at all of the options in your fridge or in your pantry. And so mise en placing in this way, grabbing what you need all together, it's going to reduce the amount of time you cook because you don't have to walk back and forth, and I don't have to leave the fridge open and go looking for everything. It's cool. It's all right here for me. So I'm going to move that over. And I think the first thing we're going to start doing is getting our roasted vegetables kind of done. So let's peel some carrots and potatoes. Guess what I didn't do? I didn't grab my potatoes. That's okay.
Now, Matt, I know you're doing roasted carrots and potatoes for this. Tell us about some other options that you think might be good. And,
Oh yeah.
I think when I was reading over this recipe after we created it, I was thinking to myself, like, wow, this is a cool recipe because it would be a great use for like leftover veggies that I might already have
Yeah,
hanging around from like a dinner earlier in the week.
exactly. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna just show the technique of how to pop these into the oven and cut them up the way we're gonna have them. But I already had some from dinner last night. So I had salmon last night, and I made some roasted vegetables for that. So it's got potato and carrots in here, and parsnips. So after I'm done cooking, like getting ready to cook dinner, I add a little bit extra in there, especially on like Thursday or Friday, so that on the weekend mornings, it's so much easier to just pop something in that's already like half made, so that, when we're hangry on Saturday morning, we're ready to go. Yeah. So a great alternative to using carrots or potatoes is definitely maybe butternut squash, frozen. I know they sell them like already peeled and frozen, so it's like super convenient that way. Sweet potato. Oh yeah, sweet potato so good in the morning. I think there's also like parsnips that you could do.
But you
I mean,
could
it's
probably even do like if you had some leftover like roasted zucchini and squash or something, like
yeah,
summer
yeah.
squash, that would be great. Or even
I
like
mean,
roasted broccoli or cauliflower, like basically anything goes, don't you
yeah.
think?
I'm definitely gonna sneak some asparagus into here.
Ooh, yum.
I don't think I've honestly, I don't think I've ever had asparagus for breakfast, but I'm willing to try. All right, cool. So I'm just gonna cut these with their tops still a little bit on there so that I feel like they're really cute. Save my tops for the chimney later. All right. And I'm gonna go in with a very biased cut on an angle.
Matt, move yourself over a little more to your left on that board, or yeah, that would be great. Just so
I
that
know, I
you
was kind of
get a
feeling like
good
nobody could see
angle
the
of your
board.
cutting. Yeah, perfect, perfect. That looks great.
Cool.
Awesome.
Sorry about that, guys.
It's okay. We're
All
just
right,
at the
cool.
point now where
So you can definitely work with as many as you feel at one time. Maybe that's one stick at a time, maybe it's the whole bunch, but whatever makes you feel comfortable holding strong in your hand. So to grab my knife, I'm putting a thumb on this side, clamping around right here and pinching and curling my knuckles around. I'm keeping the tip of the knife on my board, and I'm holding my non-dominant hand in a claw. And this is going to help me grab onto the vegetables that I cut and not get my fingertips out there. So I'm going to go push and pull, kind of like a rocking, gentle motion. So my blade of my knife isn't going up and down, and it's not going to be tapping on the cutting board really loud and theatrical. It's going to be just nice and quiet and smooth for the morning. Oh yeah. All right. And you can make these as big and as small as you want. The smaller that you cut them, the quicker that they will cook. So I would definitely keep that in mind for all of your cooking. If you're in a time crunch, might want to take a little bit extra time to cut them smaller. All right, and I've got my oven already preheated to 400. All right, looking for sheet tray. I've totally got an industry looking sheet tray. I promise it's close.
I think that's
All
good
right.
to point out, though. We don't need fancy equipment. We can make
No.
it work with some.
I went to the restaurant supply store, and I was like, yes, sir, I want that.
Sometimes a
All
broken
right, just a little
hand is
olive
the best
oil,
way.
just a little olive oil, salt and pepper. We're gonna keep it nice and fragrant with its own flavor. Why would we cover up such beautiful carrots? We're just gonna bring their natural sweetness out when we roast them and getting a lot of charred flavor from getting those nice and brown and toasty. All right, cool. So those are out of the way. Next thing we're gonna wanna cut is our onion or shallot. I feel like it's so quiet. I'm so not used to this. Like in class, we're always running around and answering questions. Is there anything anybody wants specifically to ask and I can take a best shot at? No? Okay.
I have a quick question.
Cool. Yeah.
Chef Matt, what about
Yes.
peeling the carrots and the potatoes, like when you're roasting? Sometimes I'm lazy and I don't feel like peeling them, but what are your thoughts on that? Do you really recommend doing that for the quality of it?
I almost touched on this earlier, and then I was like, I don't know if anybody really cares, but I will definitely answer that because I'm so thankful that you actually did bring it up because I thought about it. The smaller the carrots, the sweeter they are, and the less bitter the rind or like the outside peel is on the carrots. So those sweet little guys, you definitely don't need to peel them. A lot of the times we peel them so that it's not bitter or it has a better presentation. But when you get those like big horse carrots, and they're like, you know, the big, large carrots, I would peel those, but don't bother with the little guys. It's okay. You can leave them on for sure. It gives you more fiber too. So awesome. So I already have a half of an onion from last night. I'm just gonna use the other half. I still got the root and this side. So from here, I'm just gonna peel it. It's a lot easier to peel once you've already kind of cut it in half. You just grab all that off super easy. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I will keep all of my pre-cut vegetables in little containers in the fridge so that when I'm cooking the next meal, I've already got diced onion out, I've already got diced peppers, but I definitely wanted to show you guys how I would personally cut this onion, just so that it might teach you something new and be easier for you this way. But an onion does have these natural curved lines on it, and I definitely recommend following them almost like a grid line. So I'm gonna make a very thin strip cut, about 3/4 of the top of the way. And I'm going nice and slow and smooth just to show you guys the technique. I flip my onion around the other way so that it doesn't start to feel very awkward for me to kind of twist my wrist. Anything that feels comfortable to you and doesn't feel awkward gives you more control with what you're doing and feeling more confident in the kitchen. So now that I've got those strips cut, I'm gonna put the root this way and cut from right to left, straight across. And now I've got a very even medium dice. And this way I can utilize as much onion as I want to. I've got all this left, but I'm not gonna let it go to waste. Let me move this over so I can show you guys. From here, I'm just gonna make a couple more cuts. So I used the entire onion down to the root. I did have my half of an onion already in the fridge because it was cut, and we definitely recommend keeping them in the fridge after you cut them, but also so that a lot of the kind of pungency and wanting those fumes to make you cry aren't as volatile, so they're not as high right when they're kind of cooled down and at a steady kind of mellow state when they're in the fridge and when they're nice and chilly. So working quick with these cuts really does help, but keeping in the fridge also helps too.
Hey, Matt, question from Dan. Dan would like to know about your chef's knife and let us know if you have like a certain brand you like.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a knife connoisseur. Okay, so I kind of am the kind of guy that I work with what I have. The knives that I have, it's because I was gifted them. Um, Thankfully, I mean, I do. Turns out I love this brand. I found this knife at GCCM and it was really being unloved in the back. And so I sharpened it and I decided to take it home and keep it for its beauty and put it to good use. That's the honest truth. That's the honest truth. But I believe that these are what I probably will be pronouncing it wrong, but I think they're worst off.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks like a Wusthof to me.
Yeah, and I found that by stealing that one knife, I absolutely love them, and my family was so wonderful enough to buy me an entire knife block set. I highly recommend them. They've got really nice weight to them. The entire stem of the knife runs all the way through, and it's not flimsy at all. There is some knives out there, though, that they kind of do bend, and they're like a little bit more thinner. But having a nice heavy knife may be harder on your in the beginning to kind of get used to that weight, but it really allows the knife to do so much more work for you rather than you putting that extra effort in from your arm work. So it is worth it in the end to get a heavier knife.
Chef Matt, I feel like something that we do talk about a lot in class is really the safety of the knife and just making sure a sharp knife is the most important part of the brand. So
Oh
I
yeah,
do
for
agree
sure.
that the weight helps, but also we want to make sure we're keeping track of our knives being sharpened. Matt was just sharpening his this morning.
Absolutely. A sharp knife is not as dangerous as a dull knife, which does sound a little bit strange, but it's definitely because a dull knife can slip away on you a lot. Whereas a sharp knife, you know exactly where it's going because that's exactly where you want it to go. It's not going to kind of split and decide where it wants to go for you. So right now I have my skillet on medium high. I'm going to lower it down in a middle in like a minute or so, but I want to kind of get the pan hot. I want the onions to really work themselves first and kind of get sweating before I start adding in everything else. So it's kind of one of those set it and forget it things for right now. Don't bother with stirring them a lot. You can definitely cut and then add everything in, but I'm gonna go ahead and add things in as I have them cut. That way it just speeds up the whole morning process. All right. I have a mixture of shiitake and a mixture of cremini mushrooms. Any mushroom will do. So a lot of people ask me about washing mushrooms. And I guess it depends on who you ask, but I do, if there is a couple of spots on them that are really covered in dirt, I'll just like push that away with a damp little paper towel because you don't want to saturate them in water. A lot of people will run them under a strainer with water and the mushrooms will absorb all of that water for you and kind of get your whole dish pretty wet. But by doing this, it keeps them as dry as possible, doesn't add a lot of moisture to your dish, which is what you are looking for. And then another thing that people ask me about is cutting the ends of the mushrooms. A lot of people want to cut the entire stem off. You don't have to. You just kind of cut off the part that's a little bit been plucked or pulled out from where it was growing. That part's going to be a little bit more woody and dry and not as pleasurable. But leaving the stems on is definitely worth it. It's still got a lot of great umami and flavor in it. It's not going to be too different in texture or in flavor than the rest of the mushroom itself. And if you're paying for them by the pound, you might as well use them.
Chef Matt, I know a lot of people ask us about if you can have a full, rich, nutrient-rich, healthy diet, mainly plant-based.
Right.
What do you usually say about that?
You can definitely get all of the nutrients, protein, and vitamins, minerals that you want and need in your diet to be fortified for you, because your body doesn't make them themselves. Can be found in so many different things like legumes and vegetables. And I think a lot of people are worried that breakfast has to have a meat protein, but it really doesn't. This is kind of a dish that's going to have it as a garnish so that we still get satiated by it. We still feel that we're going to get that little itch of craving that bacon satiated, but it doesn't have to be the focus. It can be something that we can have just a little bit of, because we're getting a lot of protein from the egg, and we're getting it from the avocado, and we're getting it from the mushroom, and we're getting a lot of fiber from all of these ingredients as well. So they create complete proteins themselves by working together. All right, I'm gonna throw those mushrooms in there since they're nice and big. Oh yeah, I'm gonna show you guys what that looks like right now. All right, so she's steaming up really nice. We're gonna let her do her thing. I like to get my mushrooms really brown. So as much lifting and getting them to the bottom as you can, the better. I add my mushrooms in pretty early. Some people will add them in towards the end. But I like for all that extra moisture to kind of like cook out and steam out of them so that the concentration of the flavor of the mushroom is more potent. All right, into here, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna throw in a little paprika. Maybe a little bit of sage. All right, garlic powder, let's do it. It's kind of like a base that you just want to bump up like a hash. All right. I'm gonna check on my quinoa. Oh yeah. All right, guys. I'm excited to show you this. So a lot of people may not feel completely 100% about when quinoa is done cooking, and that's fair. I know it took me a minute to kind of figure it out too. I didn't grow up with quinoa. It was kind of introduced to me in culinary school. It's a wonderful full fiber whole grain. It's very cheap, and it cooks a lot quicker than brown rice, but it still gives you a complete protein when you throw it in with some legumes or with some extra vegetables with it. But it's pretty complete itself as protein. But it's done when these round granules will kind of unravel from themselves, and you will see a swirl. I don't know if that's able to be seen there, but these rounds kind of take apart from it. Sweet, sweet. All right, she's doing her thing.
Chef Matt, what's your thought regarding bacon fat? Do you use it to cook with? Do you try to use it instead of the oil, or do you just throw it away?
Amber, I forgot the bacon. Dang, I forgot the bacon. Okay. The whole idea was to cook the bacon and then use that oil that you've already got the bacon in to not put extra oil because you've already got what you're working with. Good catch. I'm gonna have to make the bacon on the side now, and then I'll just toss it in.
But that's okay, because the whole point of the bacon was really just to be a garnish and add a little extra crunch at the top.
You're exactly right. I was just trying to make it easier on us and just do a one pot
Also,
kind of
I'll just
situation.
mention now, one person had reached out to me before class saying that their husband is vegan and was asking, what can I do with this dish to make it vegan friendly? And one of the things I mentioned to her is that if, obviously you're not going to put the bacon, but because the bacon is just a garnish in this dish, you're only using one slice of bacon for a 4-serving
Oh yeah.
dish. I had suggested maybe just doing a little smoked paprika to give you some of that smoky flavor that you get from bacon. Obviously, the porkiness won't be there, but the smokiness that we like in bacon would come through from a little bit of smoked paprika. And I mentioned maybe just starting off with like a half teaspoon to kind of see. Smoked paprika can be a little strong, in my opinion. So I always like to start off a little lower and just kind of taste it and see where it's at. So I don't know, Matt, do you have any other thoughts about like if you didn't want to put bacon, but you still kind of wanted to give it a...
Absolutely. I know that in the past I have done a maple and soy marination for the mushrooms.
Oh, yeah.
And so I marinate them for a little bit, maybe about like 5 to 10 minutes, and then I will roast them. And then that kind of makes the savory sweet and kind of mimics the bacon feel. And those are delicious if you have like really nice big portobellos you can do that with and make a BLT with those.
Right. And the other flavor component that you get typically from meat is going to be that umami, which mushrooms are another really great source of umami. And I know you're going to be adding in some tomatoes, I think, too, right, to your little saute.
Exactly. The tomatoes are going to be kind of right at the end, just to kind of get them a little bit like half cooked, half first a little bit.
But that's another great umami source. So I do think if you wanted to just leave the bacon out entirely and not even do anything else, this dish is still going to be super delicious. You really don't need it. I think putting it there to satisfy the people who really just like a little bit of something, in their breakfast.
Oh yeah, totally. And that's me. I just like a little something.
Yeah.
All right, I have some leftover asparagus from the night before. I'm just gonna roughly chop and put in. I'm gonna grab a clean knife. This is another new one. All right. A good trick for these cherry tomatoes, you can do them one by one. A lot of people will put 2 salad plates together and cut right across. Personally, I love doing them with the 2 deli container lids. So if ever you're at GCCM, I will use 2 deli container lids. Might seem a little strange, but this is a trick I learned in the industry when I was working brunch and I had to make salads quickly. So if you've got a really nice sharp knife, you go across, and all of these are cut. So we're just gonna burst those a little bit. I'm gonna pop in my leftover carrot and potato that was roasted last night. All right, let me see if I can show you guys what's going on.
Oh, that looks so good. It's really colorful. I love it.
Yeah.
Breakfast.
This is also a really easy way to cross-utilize again. So this mixture, if you don't like, if you're not up for brunch right now, you can definitely save it and make it more of a lunch brunch bowl, like quinoa bowl, or like a dinner Buddha bowl.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Matt, I mean, another thing I really, really like about this dish is that I don't always want to cook like this for in the morning personally, but like I would totally eat this for dinner. Just,
That's fair.
I
don't
feel like
always
it
want
can
to
work for any meal of the day.
Absolutely. All right, and I'm gonna grab my blender, clean it up quickly. Is there anything that I can go ahead and take a stab at answering while I go ahead and clean this guy up?
Ty is asking if we have a certain any kind of recommendation for a meat substitute that can replace the pork. Carrie had commented that she likes something called benevolent bacon. I don't know if you want to speak at all about that.
Yeah. I do want to say I don't think I've tried a lot of alternative plant-based enough to like really be the expertise. So I'm gonna just PSA that out there. But I know that I have definitely heard about benevolent being pretty good. It's kind of like the against. I don't want to say it's not. It's like the what are those burgers? The name is
burgers or
yeah. They're kind of like that.
Yeah.
The name was escaping me, but I know I just had one like last week.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt too much, but the reason I brought it up, it's kind of hard to type it in, is that like when we make teas instead of bacon or something like that, we use smoked turkey necks. And so you get that same smoky taste. You don't have the pork fat. I'll cut out after that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good, thanks for bringing that up.
Some people do liquid smoke also in some of their dishes. I know I'm not too big on liquid smoke, but if you put a little Worcestershire in that, it's pretty good too.
The only thing I'll mention about the meat substitutes that, are commercially available from a nutrition standpoint is that you do want to be careful because they are processed foods, right? And so a lot of what we do at Gold Ring Center is to try to show people more homemade cooking from scratch. And we try to really limit our use of processed foods because we know that they tend to be high in sodium. And even though they might not have animal fats or animal protein, they might still be really high in fat. A lot of them are made with, coconut oil and things that are high in saturated fat, which we still, want to limit in our diet. So the only thing I would say from a nutrition standpoint is just be mindful of that. And maybe those are things that, like bacon, for example, where we're just using it here as a garnish and it's one piece for the whole dish and we're not eating it every single day of the week. We want to think the same about those processed, fake meat substitutes. They're not always the best for our health in all reality, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, they're a treat too, right?
Yeah.
I do think that it's really great when you can add in just a can of white beans or red beans or something like that instead. This recipe specifically, I think would be really good for white beans or chickpeas. And that would be a really easy way to get your legumes in and have a really nice complementary protein with the vegetables. Especially if you don't like eggs.
Yeah, there are some.
I know that it's not easy for us to, we spent so many years eating eggs, and I've spent so many years cooking eggs like every service that sometimes I just don't want to look at them anymore. And that's, you go through that and it's okay and it'll come back. But there's so many different ways of cooking the eggs for today's that you don't have to cook them straight in the pan. If you're more into a scramble, you can do that. But as far as having like a very savory breakfast, this will really help for the people that really aren't too crazy about a sweet breakfast. And I think that's really important to note, that pretty much everywhere you kind of go out these days, it's kind of hard to find a lot of vegetable forward things in the morning. People are kind of confused about how easy it can be added into a lot of things, like savory pancakes instead of sweet, frittatas, where you just kind of throw in the roasted vegetables you have from the night before. And I mean, definitely omelets, but omelets can be a little bit intimidating, so maybe a scramble.
Tell us what a scromblet is for those people who haven't taken the GCCM classes and have not been previously exposed to this concept of a scromblet, which is technically a made-up word, but that's what we like to call it.
It's kind of like so a scromblet is supposed to be an omelet, went a little wrong. You made scrambled eggs and you're embracing it, and all of the omelet fillings are in the inside of your scrambled eggs. And it's not a concept that I'm not familiar with. I'm familiar with it only because being from Corpus Christi, Texas, we ate a lot of migas. So that dish definitely incorporates a lot of vegetables in the morning in a great way with your scrambled eggs.
Yeah, and I think that speaks back to what you were saying at the beginning of class, Matt, too, is that like one of our big nutrition principles at GCCM is we're not here to tell you don't eat bacon, right? We're here to tell you eat more vegetables and eat more legumes and eat more, food that has a lot of fiber, because as you said, like it's fuller longer. And so then we can be satisfied with just that little bit of bacon for the taste if we want it, or we can, leave it out too.
Exactly. Something that I think really keeps me passionate about GCCM is that we really do focus on that inclusion in our diets rather than the exclusion of what we shouldn't eat. We all know what we shouldn't eat, but it's sometimes not easy to know what we should and how we can do that in a way that works for us. And a very easy way is by starting to dip your toes into meal prepping at night or on one day a week. And that way you have a lot of things that they don't have to be the whole dish, just components that can build something like, already some sauteed onions or peppers that you can use maybe in a pasta dish one day, and then the next day use them in a stir fry. And that's the number one thing that I can recommend, is that I love to cross-utilize as much as I can. So if I buy broccoli and there's like way too much of it, I'm not going to have just one broccoli dish. I'm going to use half of it in a stir fry one day, and the other half I'm going to use it in a frittata. So definitely keeping an eye out on how you can cross-utilize will definitely save you time and boost your creativity by not having to boost the amount of money that you spend trying to get a lot of different ingredients for different dishes, because you can fill it in with other things along the way.
Chef Matt, I was thinking about that cross-utilization just a second ago, thinking about how all three of your dishes have carrots in it, and how common it is that I leave the carrot bag in my drawer in the fridge for like a month, maybe two, because I don't know what to do with all of them. And so I think that that's a really great way for something like this carrot citrus mimosa. Not only are you getting some veggies in, you also get to use something that you otherwise would just leave in the fridge, and you get that fiber in. Never mind that Mediterranean diet, it's important to consume alcohol in moderation, and that's not just limited to red wine. So
exactly. I'm just showing you what's going on. I'm listening.
So can you tell us a little bit about the pesto you're making? Chimichurri you're making?
Yep. I'm ready to move on to the chimney. All right.
What's the difference between a pesto and a chimichurri?
Ooh, big flavor town difference. Okay, pesto is a little more mild, not really spicy. It's got basil, that's the number one thing, and then it's probably going to have another secondary thing. That can be usually parsley. Some people do like, arugula pesto, spinach pestos, but a chimichurri is traditionally red pepper flakes, some oregano, a vinegar, usually red wine. I'm going to do rice, parsley, and cilantro. And that's the biggest thing. It's kind of an Argentinian little dipping sauce. It's great on steaks. It's great definitely on a lot of things that we would think this could use like a vinaigrette, but this is going to provide you with a lot of fresh herbs and a lot of brightening components and acid, something that's a little bit more herbed. So chimichurris and pestos can be your creative playground. Absolutely. And that's what I'm gonna do today, since I already have the carrot tops. I'm not big on cilantro, so I may not put as much cilantro. I'll just kind of put more emphasis on these. Cool. So I'm gonna just do a quick rough chop, stems included, okay, y'all? Don't be afraid of stems when they're going in a blender. They've got an amazing amount of concentrated flavor. And a lot of people don't use the stems in herbs because, you know, visually, we just want the green on the plate when it's just it's little flour. But when it's going in a lot of sauces, chefs will 100% throw those stems in there. Okay, there's the carrot. I have some pea shoots, just a little bit. Pea shoots can be pretty overpowering in flavor, surprisingly. But that's because they're so small that they're packed really dense with a lot of nutrients. Okay, check out these bad boys. All right, so I've got cilantro and parsley. A lot of people have a hard time telling them apart. I'm one of those unfortunate people that thinks that cilantro tastes like soap, but sometimes I push past it for the culinary aspect of identifying that that can be pleasurable. All right, so this is a cilantro. It's a little bit more jagged than parsley. I don't know how to explain that, but its leaves look so identical. But the best way that you're gonna check it is sniffing.
Round, right?
I mean, no.
I don't know. I feel like parsley is a little more pointy and cilantro is a little more rounded.
Okay.
And you can smell it too, right?
Smelling is the best way, but you get to a point where you're like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is, and I'm prepared. Let's do it.
Chef Matt, are you using the stems or just the tops?
I'm using both. It's whatever comes off. A lot of people are very delicate. Unfortunately, I've never been delicate. I just kind of grab. Okay. This guy's packed full. We might have a little bit of trouble blending. It's always finicky. If it's not going through pretty well, you might need to add a little bit more water depending on how much you put in and how high speed your blender can allow. But into here, I'm gonna add the salt. I do have dried oregano. I have the red pepper flakes and salt and pepper. Yep. All right, there's that. I've got 2 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, unseasoned, because the seasoned one does have sugar. Oh yeah, this is getting like really nice and tasty.
Chef Matt, you could use any vinegar, right?
Yeah, you can definitely use any that is kind of like as exotic or as mild as you're looking for. And I think that there's, in this application, just like a vinaigrette, it is totally customizable without being too much of a burden to worry about. For sure, good point. Okay. All right, let's do it. I might have to add a little bit of water. This can all be done by hand if you don't have a food processor or a blender. You just chop the herbs very small and then mix it together in a small mixing bowl.
The idea too of if you don't have the blender and you do it that way by hand, you can get it a little more like rustic and it'll just won't be as smooth of a consistency, but that might be fun too, something different.
All right, let me back that. I'm gonna add a little bit more liquid. You're looking for it to be kind of a chopped up minced consistency, but not looking for it to be a very thin, watery sauce. I'm gonna add my oil in, create an emulsion. Looking for about 1/3 of a cup. She makes a lot of growling noises in the morning, but she's okay.
Yep, Matt, just to give you a heads up, we're about 2 minutes to 12. So I know we're going to go over our estimated hour by just a little bit, but I know you're getting close. I just wanted to give you a time check. Hopefully everybody's okay with us going a few minutes over, because we are giving you so much great information and knowledge and cooking techniques. It's gonna be perfect.
And this was done a little while ago. I'm not gonna lie. It's been sitting there because we kind of been talking about doing some other things, giving some tips. So now that we're kind of ready to plate up pretty soon, I'm gonna pop in the eggs now. All right.
This is awesome, Matt. You're literally just putting those eggs right into the veggies.
Oh yeah.
To cook it all.
No worrying about how to cook the eggs. You just pop them in, let them do its thing.
I think that's really cool, because I don't know if many people are used to that kind of technique for egg cooking.
We do have a recipe for white bean shakshuka that does the same kind of half fried, half poached. Well, maybe not so poached, but like sunny aspect to it, where the steam will then cook back down once you put a lid back on them. And so you only need about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how high your heat is, how done you like your eggs. So I can't really give a for sure, this is going to be it for you time. I hate to say it, but it's going to be done when it's done. All right.
Chef Matt, I know I have the terrible trait of overcooking every egg that I meet. That's why I really avoid cooking them in general. Do you find that this technique keeps you from overcooking them? Is it more of a carryover cooking, or can you overcook them?
You can overcook them. It's not really a foolproof thing. They can definitely not be as runny, but they're going to cook a lot more gentle. So you have more wiggle time and more time to decide, or play with rather, than straight on the pan, on the heat, without all these other things in there with them. So they're more forgiving, but you can definitely overcook them. But some people like their yolks hard.
And on another note, can you just touch upon the egg debate? Are we okay to eat? Should we not be eating them? Is it moderation? Should it be egg whites? What's the deal?
The cholesterol debate, right? They're safe to eat. And honestly, a lot of research has shown in the past 5 years, more recently, that eggs are not the enemy of cholesterol. And a lot of times it wasn't the whites themselves that were being targeted, it was the yolks. But there is so much choline and amazing magnesium and nutrients that are found in eggs that are good for us, that they make a wonderful snack. I don't recommend excluding them because of anything other than maybe just taste or your own health concerns. But no, I think that the myth has been pretty much debunked about being bad for you, if that helps. We're going after sugar now. All right. I'm going to show you what's going on in here. They're starting to get nice, and rather than being as translucent like this one, that's not there yet, but these are starting to look white. This one's looking pretty good, actually. All right. I'm going to leave the pan on, the lid on. I'm going to turn the heat off, and I'm going to let it carry over cooking.
So now we're doing some assembly, right?
Right. So I'm just going to grab my bowls that I'm going to eat out of today.
I wish I was at your house and eating this right now. I guess I'm just going to have to print out those recipes and make it later, huh?
Yeah. I'm going to give this one more whirl in the blender. Problem is that all the grains pack down so small that now it's can be a little bit challenging for the blades to catch. So you just gotta have a little patience.
Yeah, and so that's a good blending tip too. If you are blending enough, if you're blending something really herby or solid like that and it's not catching, it's not, you can't get any motion with your blender, you probably need to add some more liquid. And I know, Matt, you mentioned that you add some water, and that's okay. You don't want to dilute the flavor of whatever you're doing too much. But that's why, you use your qualities and you will taste it and see, maybe if you added a little extra water, you might need to go in with some extra spice. But my bet is it's got so much flavor going on already that you're probably
Exactly.
Yeah, Matt, don't forget we have a request, and I want to just tell you now before you get too far. Let's get a good photo of this finished dish because I know you're going to do some beautiful plating. I'd love to be able to share that with everybody.
Cool. She's not perfect, but that's okay. Oh, yeah, awesome. All right. We're going to top this with some fresh cracked pepper. Let's spoon our grain into the bowls.
I always forget about putting grains at breakfast time. It's such a great idea.
I was thinking to myself just now, like, okay, you could do this without the grains if you wanted to. If you wanted to save a step or like make it a little quicker, you could do it. But I think it's such a nice, really like complete dish with so many flavors and textures going on. Like I love the addition of it, and it is such a great way if you just have some overcooked quinoa hanging out in the fridge. Like go ahead and add it to your breakfast. Why not?
I also love that you could put this mixture into some corn tortillas and just eat them that way.
Yeah.
On top.
So that's what we got going on right now.
Oh my gosh, so pretty.
I'm going to spoon very gently. Oh, yeah.
And you're going gentle so that you hopefully don't break that yolk, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. We just put all that hard work into it, and things do happen. It's fine. Just what I would normally do is act like it was on purpose and that somebody was a super lucky person to get that one because it's special.
I love that. I love turning your kitchen mistakes into like, I meant to do that, obviously.
Right?
Everything with Matt is like, you were lucky to get this very special
Right,
love.
you got the Bailey.
Is that not common?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I used to just watch a lot of videos of Julie Child's cooking, so she made every mistake into a good opportunity.
Gotta love some Julia.
Yeah. Now, I'm not gonna lie, y'all. A serving of avocado is a third of the avocado. There's 2 people in my household, and we love avocado. We're both gonna get half.
Well, you know what, Matt, this is a great time to also mention one of the things that people don't realize about avocado, I think sometimes, we know it's a good source of heart-healthy fat. It's got a lot of those monounsaturated fatty acids, which we love for heart health. But the other thing it has, which people forget or don't realize maybe, is it is so full of fiber. And so it's just another reason to not feel so bad about adding a little extra avocado to your dish, because you're getting some more fiber with your heart-healthy fat.
All right. I'm gonna give her one last little pinch of seasoning salt right on top. And add in the chimichurri right on top.
While Matt's finishing up that plating, I'll just take this opportunity to let y'all know, if you don't already know, we have additional classes coming up soon. It's going to be on Wednesday, August 12th in the evening. It's going to be a dinner time class, so from like 5 to 6-ish, we'll say ish, Central Time. We're going to be doing a theme of cooking together. So it's a great class if you're a couple and you want to figure out how you can work better together cohesively in the kitchen as a couple, whether that's a romantic couple, could be a roommate situation, mom and dad, or, you know, like mom and kid, whatever works in your household. God, Matt, that looks so good. But just as a reminder that class is available, you can get tickets now through the same Eventbrite page. If you just search for us on Eventbrite, you'll see that. Matt, that looks so good.
I'm not gonna lie, it's a very involved dish, it looks like, but that's because I made it a little bit more involved so that if you don't have anything on hand already, cooked and ready to go from some leftovers, that you were cooking from scratch completely. But a lot of those tips and tricks that I touched on will make it go a lot quicker if you do have some of those items already cooked for you. So that's kind of the reason why it took a little bit longer than anticipated, but don't hurt yourself stressing to make it too veggie forward or it not being veggie enough. Work where you're at, meet yourself where you're at, include a little bit at a time. Don't make this big stretch and then be like, oh, I cannot do this every day. I don't do this every day. I very much rarely cook a breakfast this big. I'm more of an overnight oats kind of person, and I meal prep those. But Saturday and Sunday, those are the big game days where I bring it in the kitchen. So hopefully this will help add to your new repertoire of skill set, and you can make a version of this that is accommodating to you and your family. And it's really easy because it can be the one pot. So thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Yay, thank you, Matt. And don't forget to take a picture before you eat it, because we
Cool.
definitely want to see that finished.
All right.
I'll share that with everybody too. And then just so that everyone knows, we will get this video up, downloaded and uploaded. And what we usually have been doing with these is I have a way to send it to you as like a private page on our website, which we'll send you a password for, and we'll have the video, we'll have all the recipes there again in one easy location for you. So we hope you enjoyed this class. We thank you for your support and any donations you were able to make to our organization, which go directly to supporting our community programming that we do. We really hope we can get back in the kitchen with everybody in person soon, but this is a great way for us to still be able to see people in the meantime, and we hope you enjoyed it. And thank you, Matt, for leading us in this class today and designing these great recipes. It was
Absolutely.
awesome.
Thank you guys so very much.
Enjoy your weekend. Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. Let's eat.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Everybody wave as we finish up the recording. Bye.
Bye.
Thank y'all.